Welcome to the Marketing Stir podcast by Starista, probably the most entertaining marketing podcast you're going to put in your ears. I'm Jared Walls, associate producer and Starista's creative copy manager. The goal of this podcast is to chat with industry leaders to get their take on the current challenges of the market, but also have a little fun along the way. In this episode, Vincent and Ajay talk to Karolina Kocalevski, Vice President, Global Head of Marketing at Orion Innovation. She explains the parallels between marketing and her previous career in academic publishing. She also delves into how starting and remaining small for a long time helped Orion scale quickly, and how she overcame her fear of being on camera. Ajay gets a live fish delivery, and Vincent wants to hear about the pond. Give it a listen.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's me, Vincent Petrofessa with Starista. That must mean only one thing. It's the Marketing Stir. Welcome to another episode. We love bringing you these episodes. Thank you so much for the feedback. Our viewership has gone up. That's great. We appreciate it. Thank you so much. Please subscribe. Please like us. Please send us feedback. Starista, first, let me start. Who is Starista? Starista Identity Marketing Company. We own our own business-to-consumer and business-to-business databases. From those databases, we help you get new customers. Take your first-party data, cleanse it, hygiene it. We have our own DSP, omni-channel marketing. We can help you. My email address is vincent@starista.com. That's how confident I am, but we can help you. I just gave the world, well, maybe most of the US and a few other countries, my information, but we are growing internationally as well. Thank you so much for listening. With me, as always, my person who I ride shotgun on this podcast with, my commander-in-chief, the CEO of Starista, Mr. Ajay Gupta. What's going on, Ajay?
Hey, Vincent. I'm always looking for some excitement during the pandemic, so looks like we got some, I didn't know this was possible. We had live fish delivered from Amazon for our pond. So
wow.
How cool is that?
So
this came in this giant box with water in it with fish inside.
That's great. First of all, can I back up? Can you tell me about this pond? What is this pond you speak of?
I bought the house and a pond came with it. Seemed like a pet project from the previous owner. And it's got a nice little depth to it. And I inherited some turtles and fish, and unfortunately we also have some raccoons and birds, so the fish don't last as long as I would like. And I discovered that Amazon can actually deliver fish, so one less shopping trip to make.
That is crazy. So when do you move into the new place? Is it a couple weeks? Are you already there?
No, it's about going to be about 8 weeks of some reconstruction and permits and whatnot.
That's awesome. You have a pool and a pond. That's the name of this episode. I'm kidding. That's awesome. My man's got a koi pond. I love it. I can't wait to come out and visit San Antonio, but not in the summer. As you know, it is really hot there. That's awesome, Ajay. Well, let me tell you, I'm already able to top the koi pond fish because we have an amazing guest with us today. Our guest, they're amazing. I love that people agree and say yes to be on this podcast. So we are very fortunate. Ladies and gentlemen, calling in from the Bronx, or originally hailing from the Bronx, but she's calling in from right now in Midtown. She's in the office. I love it. I'm also in the office. People are like, what are you, crazy? Why are you in the office? Please welcome the Vice President, Global Head of Marketing at Orion Innovation, Karolina Kocalevski. What's going on, Karolina?
Hi, Vincent. Thanks for having me. Hi, Ajay. Really happy to be here.
We are happy that you are here and in the Midtown office. You know, the people on audio can only hear it, but the people on video, if you're watching on YouTube and on LinkedIn, beautiful new office, natural light coming in. You know, that's great. What made you decide to go into the office? Do you have to get out of the apartment sometimes like me?
Oh, I do. Yeah. Once a week, I try to get out there, and we've just moved to this office in Midtown, and it's beautiful. So this gives me a chance to, check out cafes, support local business, catch up for a coffee with some of my colleagues that are coming in. So Yeah, it was a perfect day to do it.
That's awesome. And, thank you so much for being on the podcast, Karolina. Please tell people who are listening a little bit about, Orion Innovation and more importantly, your role within the organization.
Sure, thank you. Well, Orion is a premier global business and technology services firm. We deliver digital transformation and digital product development initiatives for our clients. We're headquartered in Edison, New Jersey, and we have engineers in the US, in India, in Europe. We're actually quite a mature company. We've been around for 25 years, and we have a long history, out of New Jersey. We've been growing rapidly in the last few years due to a highly acquisitive CEO and an aggressive growth strategy. He's been building out capabilities and scale across the globe. Raj brought me in about 18 months ago to bring and unite all of our newly acquired companies under one corporate brand umbrella, and also build out the marketing operations function and drive new revenue growth, build awareness for our company, our corporate story, and our services. And the nice thing about Orion is that it was a small company for a really long time, and it was built on deep relationships with massively complex clients. So being nimble and agile is actually part of our DNA. And, we've grown substantially, tripling revenues in the last few years, but we can still operate with agility at scale. And more importantly, we enable our clients to operate with agility at scale. One guess what our tagline is?
It grows with ability, agility and scale. Is that what it is?
Agility at scale, yeah.
I love it. I love it. And also, but how is your company, speaking to your company, how is your company and your team adapting, I guess, to this new normal that we're facing right now?
Yeah. Well, thankfully, quite well. Our clients need us more than ever now. What we do is we help them digitize. And right now in this environment, we're helping them keep the lights on. We're helping them deliver better digital experiences for their users and their clients. We're helping improve operational efficiencies. And, these are the things that we do every day. Back in February, when the coronavirus was still only categorized as an outbreak, we saw what was happening in Italy, and we were already heavily immersed in building business continuity plans for our clients about how would we deliver on their projects. And we already realized we may have to shift to a 100% remote model. We set aside infrastructure for that, and then when this became a pandemic, we were able to move with lightning speed to a 100% remote model. Right now, this has made everybody hyper aware of the need for digital transformation in every sector, and how quickly things can change around the world, and how important technology has become to us. In terms of my marketing team, we're a small and mighty team, and built a small team in the last 18 months spread across the US, India, and Europe. My team's phenomenal. We've been working around the clock since the pandemic. I think that most marketers have been as slammed as I have. I can't imagine a marketer isn't just working their tail off out there. But through it all, we had new communications to roll out around the pandemic and for employees. But on top of all that, we had a corporate rebrand right in the middle of the pandemic. We had 2 acquisitions. We had a website relaunch, and we also then had to pivot all of our campaigns and content to make sense in this new world that we're in. So really hardworking team. Shout out to my team. They're phenomenal, and they're a great support to me, and we get a lot of marketing out.
Karolina, you led a global rebranding during the pandemic. So what's that been like? I imagine working remotely for most part.
Yeah, it was actually, it was a bright spot in an otherwise dark period that we were all going through right at the beginning when everyone was a little terrified. We decided, no, we've been working on this rebrand for such a long time. We are not waiting. In fact, we were a little late with rolling it out. So we continued. It actually gave our employees, hope that actually our company was going to be okay. It's never easy letting go of legacy brands. We had some pretty big company executive stakeholders as part of our rebrand, and it was a long, thoughtful process. when we finally rolled it out and landed on a name, Orion Innovation, I was surprised. Everyone loved it. It was unanimous. Everyone rallied around our new logo. It was bold, simple, sophisticated, and it represented the future and who we had become and who we also aspired to be. On the one hand, it was a little sad that we couldn't do a bigger splash at the time, of our rollout. But on the other hand, it actually gave us a little bit more breathing space to execute some pretty time-consuming stuff, such as all of the corporate signage, all the building signage across the world, and all the swag, all the rebranded swag. We had no way of getting that to employees anyway. So, we've taken our time to get that organized, and so everyone's will have a nice little surprise when they get back to the office with new signs, new logo, and new tchotchkes and swag.
Now, your background was in the academic book publishing world. So tell us a little bit more about your transition into marketing and some of the parallels there.
Sure. I mean, there are actually quite a lot of parallels. And at the beginning of my career, I was an academic book publisher in Australia. I transitioned into marketing when I came to New York 17 years ago. The transition was actually pretty seamless. And, I liken academic book publishing to product development. It's a lot like product development. A book publisher researches the competitive landscape, figures out the total addressable market, develops a product concept and a value proposition, and then actually develops the product or the book with the author, with certain flow and certain features and benefits, and then, launches that with a sales and marketing plan. So, what I really took from that career is that it really did develop a skill of developing compelling content. And that's something I've taken with me in my next career as a marketer. And it was also super valuable to see a product through from inception to launch and what happens with that product. And ironically, the beginning of my academic book publishing career, one of the very first books I worked on was an Australian adaptation of a famous book called Basic Marketing by McCarthy. And McCarthy was one of the grandfathers of marketing. And he's the one who coined the 4 Ps. And product is the first P in the 4 Ps of the marketing mix: product, price, promotion, and place. And he even, I think, preceded Kotler. So ironically, I ended up, moving into marketing, but that was what I worked on.
Now, that's one of the more unique ones that we've had, Karolina, as far as like a person and starting their career in marketing, getting there. So that's very interesting. On the Marketing Stir, we also get into some of the nitty gritty on marketing and what approaches are working for you.
Okay, yeah. Well, anyone who knows me knows that I am a really big fan of webinars. I have been for a decade. Back when, back when the technology actually wasn't there for it. And I'm not talking about webinars, your grandfather's webinar where someone's pushing a PowerPoint presentation and it's audio only. I'm talking about webinars that are like a mini little CNN news show where there's an anchor and where there's interactive panelists, and actually developing and producing that is actually quite a feat. So a decade ago when I was doing that at one of the large professional services providers with some really smart, partners of a big accounting firm who, I was putting on a stage, the technology wasn't there. We were doing them in a studio, and we had cameras and cameramen and broadcasting live. Now we have webcams, and, it's something that I love has become super simple to execute. And the biggest thing, the reason I love this tactic so much, and it's certainly not the only tactic, we do a lot of different things in marketing, but what I love is that it actually takes care of the 3 Bs of marketing. And I've coined that. You can actually quote me for the 3 Bs of marketing. One is, we build the brand. Webinars can really help with that. It's a pressure cooker for creating content, compelling content. It puts our subject matter experts on a stage. It helps build brand awareness and also helps with storytelling. It's a great venue for storytelling. The second B is building relationships. If we happen to have external panelists, it ends up becoming a situation where we're building relationships with those panelists, deep relationships, and also our audience starts to trust us, and we're delivering some free advice and guidance on some pretty complex challenges that our audience may be going through. So that kind of altruistic kind of delivery of education almost it builds loyalty in whoever it is that is watching that content. So that's the second B, it builds relationship. And then the third B is it builds pipeline. Most marketers have seen the stats out there. Webinars are phenomenal for driving lead generation. We have a reason to be reaching out and emailing people. People are interacting with that content. People are registering, then they're attending, then they're asking questions, then they're watching a replay. And so the marketing campaign that goes around that is huge, and it's useful. So it's a great lead generation vehicle, but it is risky, and there is a lot. Even with today's technology, there's a lot that can go wrong, and most of those things that can go wrong, you need a lot of practice, you need preparation, and you need a backup plan. What happens if your computer crashes and there's a reboot that happens right in the middle of your live broadcast? So we've got some backup plans for all of that, and it's been working. Our LinkedIn following has doubled in less than a year, and we are making new connections, and people are trusting us from the moment they start to interact with us. And I think it's because of some of the content that's out there, and that they get a feel for the minds of the thought leaders that we've put on stage and the thinkers within our company, and they're getting a feel for who they're actually going to be working with. So webinars is my favorite.
Yeah, it's something that a lot of our guests have been talking about and I also think now is a great time for people because they're starved for content, really good content. The in-person events, Karolina, are gone. So, we've heard people say, normally my webinars get, 7 people. Now we're getting 7,000 people. It's been crazy. I always think, I like to think it's because AJ and I are so good. That's why we have the viewing that we've been getting. But I think it's the guests that we have on, and it's really also the time. I think if maybe we put this podcast out a few years ago, maybe we wouldn't have as much success as we're having now. But it's really, I think, the content that we're putting out. So it has to be good content and a little bit on the timing. So yeah, I agree with you there. My other question is, everyone we've been speaking to on the podcast is kind of in their digital transformation journey. I know that's a specialty at Orion Innovation. Talk to me about some of the companies that you work with or targeting to help them with that.
Sure. Yeah. Well, it's true. Everyone is on a digital transformation journey, whether they're right at the beginning of that journey and they haven't done anything, or whether they're sort of partway down their roadmap for their digital transformation. So yeah, what we deliver, services for digital transformation technology services, it's relevant to everybody. So how do you, as a marketer, target and zero in on who should be hearing your message? I mean, I often say to my team, we're not trying to be famous to everybody. We are trying to be famous to a small, finite group of companies out there that could really do with our services. And so, I mean, we love inbound leads. We will help anybody that reaches out to us looking for help. We love those. And this is what we strive for, to get such a pipeline of inbound leads that are ready to buy services. But as a marketer, for our marketing program, what we've done is we've taken a look at where are our biggest clients and our most complex clients that we've been serving, and that have got the most challenges with enterprise systems. And those are industries like professional services. It generally has a lot of people, so they've got a lot of systems, financial services, life sciences, sports, entertainment and media, telecommunications. So in these big industries, we've started to build out content that's relevant just for them, and that's sharing stories of other companies and what they're going through in their space and how they're addressing those challenges. So really tailoring our marketing to the language of the industries we're talking to and being really specific, being compelling and sharing stories is how we are starting to get noticed. And you know, it's not that, like I said, it's not that we can't serve everybody. We certainly can, and we do, and we try to. But where we have the case studies and the stories to tell, we tell them within those industries.
Ron, one follow-up question on the webinar, mostly because we are trying to figure out how to do a good job ourselves on it. So what's your recommendation in terms of, you know, the mixture of external panelists, internal panelists, as well as frequency of the webinars?
Wow. I really am a fan of having external panelists and help them be the heroes of the show and tell their stories. Just like you've done for me, this is really not that different to a webinar. It's a 3-person webinar here. But it's baby steps. You know, we started with internal panelists only, and we were telling our story, and we were telling the stories on behalf of the clients we've served. You know, how are they addressing certain challenges? So as we got more confident with the technology, we then started to bring in external panelists. And once we knew that we would put on a good show and that we would be able to guide those panelists and help them prepare, and we weren't trying to figure out things ourselves. So once our process became a fine-oiled machine, then we introduced external panelists. You know, in about a year, we've produced 6 webinars. My team is still fairly small, but ultimately I want to get to the point where I'm doing, you know, 1 a month. And that's a lot of content. And I was doing that when I was, you know, back at my professional services company. We were doing 1 a month for a long time, and it's a pressure cooker. It's a lot. It's you're in the hot seat. It's live, and there's a lot of pressure to deliver well. So until you're confident you can deliver well, you know, don't be that aggressive is what I would say, because you can, you know, another thing I say to my team all the time, we can either help or hurt our brand with every single thing that we do. And webinars are very visible. So in terms of cadence, yeah, you could, I mean, I know you guys are super aggressive now, but now you've got a great show and you know what you're doing, and you can get out a lot of podcasts. So it's a building process to get there.
And then for the webinar, do you see that as a lead building tool as well, where you're utilizing the signups to target them?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we see we get so much data from that in terms of who, you know, how long people have listened in, what they've clicked on, the email promotions ahead of the webinar, what they, you know, they've shared them, where they've clicked. So we are understanding who's most engaged out of the people who've joined, and then did they end up following through and join, or should we be following up with them and give them the recording because they're actually quite interested in this material and may really be in a pickle right now, or it will be challenged. It's something that we could possibly help with. So it definitely guides our follow-up, and we think thoughtfully. We don't try to follow up everybody. Every single person who registers and every single person who attends is not necessarily a marketing qualified lead. And also, if someone didn't register or didn't end up attending it, but yet they interacted with the marketing promotions ahead of time, that could still make them a marketing qualified lead. So the data we're able to get, I mean, finding indicators of who's ready to buy and who really has this pain point now, how can I direct the sales follow-up process? I think it's a challenge every marketer has. And I don't know that there's a perfect technology out there that can direct us. And until that's there, I'll take it. I mean, if someone had that magic technology now, I would definitely get that. But for right now, we're using webinars. We are targeting, you know, we're companies and industries. We are telling a story for them. And we're seeing who's interacting with that, and what indicators are we getting that they may actually be ready to buy, or maybe have a challenge there that we can help with.
Karolina, there's one thing I want to ask you about that's also, you know, that we have in common is your work with the Big Brothers Big Sisters of New York City. I was a Big Brother for 7 years, and I had 2 little buddies, 2 little brothers there. One, Devon, who kind of graduated out of the program, and then I had little Omari, for which you know, I loved my time. Talk to me about your work with them and what you're doing.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was in the early days of New York. You know, I had just completed an MBA at the time. I was still woefully single in the city. I was missing my niece and nephew, had time, and I had thought about mentoring a child for a long time. Also, New York City can sometimes feel like a scene of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, where everyone rounded up the children and they're gone. There's no kids anywhere.
Yeah.
And it's a little strange that way. And so, I needed a little, it was not so altruistic as it was, I needed a little buddy for myself. And so I had the time, and I ended up getting matched with a young lady called Cassandra in the Bronx. So she was 10 years old, and she and I would get out there and do New York together. On the weekends, we'd get an ice cream, we'd go to a cafe, or go for a walk in the park and chit chat about girl things. So, my time with them was fairly short. I think in total, I spent a year as an active participant, an active big sister. But I loved that time, and it was so good for me as well to really have that companionship, which is so hard to find in New York, especially if you're a transplant, which I was, and my family was far away, and this little girl was almost like my little buddy too, and made me realize what it's like to even like potentially have a daughter. And ironically, within that year, I met my husband, and shortly afterwards came kids, and then life got super busy. But it was a really fun time, and I monitor what they do. They often put events on around the city, and I try to go with my kids. That's stopped for now, obviously, but I'm going to get back into it at some point. It's been a decade since I was involved with them, but it was a fun time and a nice time for me.
Yeah, the same. I kind of got involved. This is the Big Brothers Big Sisters in Portchester, New York, where I'm from, born and raised, which is a little bit above the Bronx, so I'm kind of, a native New Yorker, as they call it. So for me, I love doing it. It's been almost a decade for me too, Karolina. It's kind of, I did it for about 7 years, and I would love to return to it as well, because same with me, like kids. I had some children. I have 2 little boys, 2 under 3, and that's where a lot of my time is. But I always, I donate to them, and I always love seeing that. Any charitable work that our guests are doing, but especially the Big Brothers Big Sisters, because that's a big one for me, near and dear to my heart. So that's awesome. Question, we always like to ask these questions there, get a little deep there. What's been a highlight or a shining moment for you in the last few years?
Yeah, okay. Well, this one's a bit of a doozy, but I honestly think that for me, it's been stepping out in front of the camera. Just the thought of being on camera or on a stage would make me break out into a cold sweat, just a really short period of time. In fact, when I got the email from you about this podcast, my absolute first inclination was to say, no, no way. And no way will I do this. And, if a marketing boss had asked me in the past, if they had said, your career depends on you having to go and deliver these messages on a stage and talk on our behalf, I would have said, absolutely no way. I don't care if my career depends on it. I'm not doing it. You can't make me. You have to drag me there kicking and screaming. But what happened recently, as I sort of became the marketing boss, I quickly realized that actually it's less risky delivering messages yourself sometimes. There's less involved, and sometimes with the time crunch that we're under. It was time for me to step up and step in and do that more and get more confident with it. And, it's not that I'm still training others on how to be a moderator and how to, deliver messages, compelling messages, and my team, others in the company who are subject matter experts, coaching them as well. But I have started to step out of the shadows a little bit. And I'm finally getting to a point where I'm starting to enjoy it just a little bit, and I'm not as petrified about it, but it is still quite horrifying.
Well, you could have fooled me. That's great. And it's like, yeah, you're stepping in, you're immersing yourself as a moderator. Forget it. That's going from 0 to 60. That's great. So, we appreciate that.
Karolina, you're such a natural. I definitely did not get the feeling that this was your first rodeo.
This is my first podcast, my first invitation.
Wow.
And, really? I didn't know that.
Thank you.
No, we're honored. So how do you kind of recommend to somebody who is in the same boat as you or as you were before, what are some steps they can take to get more comfortable with speaking in front of an audience or on camera?
I always think this is baby steps, and start in an environment that's fairly friendly, that is not hostile, and prepare your notes. What's been helpful for me is if I can prepare my thoughts ahead of time, and if I'm speaking in an area that I'm comfortable with, don't try right off the bat speaking about technical content that really is not your expertise. So I will only speak on things that I understand and things that are near and dear to my heart. This podcast, the topic of this podcast is me and my career. So if anyone should know that, it's me. So, but preparation is a big deal. Even that, you don't want to ramble. You want to make sure that you've thought about things and make sure that you feel confident in how you're going to deliver your messages. So, there's some short pieces of advice right there.
Oh, that's great. We always tell new salespeople or people that have accidentally entered into a sales career and go to a networking event to just set goals. I'll try to get 5 business cards or 10 business cards as a starting point, and I've seen that help a lot of the early stage sales professionals. So one other marketing related question for you that we like to ask all our guests is, are there particular marketing software or tools that you love or that you've used in the past that you recommend other marketers?
Yeah, I think my favorite right now, I do have a small team and we are digitizing, but we are still a pretty small team, and our company is not so large and so complex that I need to go with sophisticated marketing platforms. So what we've been using is Hubspot. I think it's a great place to start with digitizing a marketing program and a sophisticated marketing program that has built-in automation where you can analyze all the interaction and engagement and data points. And my team, it doesn't take a ton of training. It's very intuitive. An old dog like me can figure it out and use it all the time. So I think it's a great place to start, and I'm a real fan of that specific platform for that reason, just because of its simplicity. And I know there are great platforms out there that are even more sophisticated and do even more, but you have to start somewhere, and that's been, it does everything. It helps us analyze everything, our social media, and it integrates everything with our website, our email marketing, our webinars. There's so many data points that come out of it that we are starting to feel like we are a sophisticated marketing operation, a year in using that tool. So I'm a huge fan.
And Karolina, the famous question that I just said famous, I just made that up, but the one question we ask all of our guests, it's a LinkedIn question. And we've had salespeople from other companies tell us, thank you for this advice. I now know how to reach out to a CEO, a global marketing director. I even tell some of our own sales team where I'm like, how do I reach out to some, listen to the podcast and you'll hear it from 36 different C-level executives. LinkedIn. What is a message that gets Karolina and your position, right, to get back to someone reaching out via LinkedIn? What's a LinkedIn message that you say yes to? And what also is a pet peeve of yours when it comes to people reaching out to you?
Yeah. Okay, it's a great question, by the way, because I think that learning from people, there's no right or wrong answer here, but learning, what ticks people off, but what really gets attention is a big deal. So for me, the thing that I love is when someone's really taken time to get to know me. I'm not just a person. They've dug around my profile a little bit. They're getting familiar with sort of where I've worked or what I've done or a piece of content I put out there or what my passions might be or what my style is, and have noticed my touch on things. A compliment gets you far. I mean, all of our egos are so fragile. I mean, if somebody was to actually send a compliment my way, I mean, that email is going to go to the top of the pile for me, and I'll be like, oh, who's this person? Tell me more. And so that's that, that will always get you far. And I think I didn't appreciate that so much as a younger person, that it doesn't matter how senior somebody is, we're all doing the best we can. We all are trying to do a good job. We're all working really hard, and we all like feedback. And it's something that I try to also do with my team. When they're doing a great job, and they are always, they're working so hard, I take a moment and I thank them and I compliment them, and it's a team behind everything that gets executed, and that's so important. But even senior people, we do have the delicate, fragile egos, and a compliment will get you far. So, but make sure that it's not an empty compliment, that you really mean it, and you really have either been inspired by something, or you've learned through watching how we're doing our marketing, learned something that's actually resonated with you. So that kind of thing for me as a marketer is always a super interesting email. The thing that I don't like so much is these broad emails where someone, and I know where they're coming from, and where someone says, give me 20 minutes of your time and I want to hear about your strategy. Now, and they don't tell me anything about what it is that they do or what problem of mine they can solve. Now, I do want to take meetings. I obviously don't have that much time to take a lot of meetings throughout my month with vendors, but I do want to see, what technology is emerging. There's so much technology emerging for marketers. It's made our jobs better. It's helped us analyze more. It's made cumbersome things much faster. And I want to know, do you have the next big thing that could solve my big dilemma right now? I'm always willing to listen, but if someone doesn't include that in a concise, compelling way, it's, make it compelling for me. Give me a reason why I should meet with you. Don't just ask for 20 minutes of my time to tell you my strategy. I don't have 20 minutes. I don't have 20 minutes to scratch myself. So make it compelling and give me a reason why I should, and I will give you that meeting. And so, that's a pet peeve. Don't make it so broad. Much as I know where you're coming from, give me a little bit about what it is. What is your value proposition? What are you solving for me? And are you solving something that you understand is absolutely keeping me up at night, or very cumbersome in possibly how I'm running my program?
Yeah, no, that's good advice. And I love the compliment part, right? That's how I got this job here. I gave Ajay a compliment. I said how beautifully fitting his jacket was. I think I said your hair was luxurious, Ajay. And then here I am, over a year, the vice president of B2B products. It's the best email I ever sent. I'm joking. I knew Ajay for many years, but it's yeah, I like that. A compliment. That's actually, Ajay, like, say something nice about the company or do research. That's I love when someone says, hey, I listened to the podcast. That was amazing. Or I saw you host this award show in the industry. Like, this was great. Yeah. Well, wouldn't you agree, Ajay?
Yeah. I think we've talked about it before. Our VP of sales has this term called the stroke. Mm-hmm. So I've seen him do this so many times very well, even to people he doesn't know. Have heard so many great things about you and all that. Only once has somebody asked, really? Why? who said that? Mm-hmm. But normally people just take the compliment because they want to feel good about themselves. Yeah. So.
Yeah, but and so no, we get called that way. We actually on the podcast, we do our research, and then we will get called out sometimes where people are like, well, when we have it to back it up, they're like, well, what do you mean? It's like, oh, well, this is how we know you. This is what we've been doing. This is why we get, but yeah, if you do give a David Bailey stroke, as we say, you have to be able to back it up, like you said, and he does. He's
right. He's genuine, and because someone's going to ask you to elaborate. Tell me more.
Yeah, because like now, like, just, not to go off on too much a tangent, because this podcast, we reach out to interesting companies and interesting people. Really starts with the people first, and then Valerie, my producer, knows there's sometimes a person will say, oh, great, how? And then I love it because I'm like, well, we spoke to Mark about you, and he had said amazing things, or these are the 6 articles that I saw, the webinars, the seminar, that sort of thing. So yeah, I love it. It's almost like a challenge when I get called out, and I'm like, oh yeah, no, this is how. This is not an empty meeting. We're spending a lot of time, my sales side of the business, but with the podcast. I'm like, oh no, we really want you on. This is, this is an hour that we spend, or an hour and a half, to get to know people. So,
it
awesome.
definitely came across very genuine, and I was absolutely flattered to be part of it. But again, I almost said no.
Yeah, you did. And that happens. People say no, is for different reasons. And we say no as well to people, because now there's a lot of, public relations agencies that reach out to us, and continue that. That's okay, because you're doing your research on our podcast, and then, if it's not like a great fit, like you said, Karolina, and I think the best compliment that we received is that we make it feel comfortable. And I hope we do, with that.
And you're so funny. So that
yeah,
a lot more fun.
We try to be. It's easy when AJ's naturally funny. So it's very easy. I play off of him very nicely, and our guests.
Yeah,
so
I'm particularly popular in Germany.
Yeah, Germany, I know they think I try too hard, and AJ's naturally funny. It's crazy. It's like,
AJ, do not sell yourself short. You're terrific.
Yeah. There it is. So, we have some personal questions. Still in that comfort zone, don't you worry. It's so more of like, what makes you happy? Books you read, TV shows that you watch, what do you, you're in the Bronx. What do you love about the Bronx? Tell me about it.
Sure. I mean, what makes me happy is a little bit of nature, and that's actually hard to find in New York City. My family, I've got 3 young kids now. I've got twins. I've got 7-year-old twins and a 10-year-old boy. It's a girl-boy twin and a 10-year-old. So spending a bit of time out in nature with my kids, with my husband. We love to do hikes. And it really is a great juxtaposition towards what city life used to be like when I lived in the city. And, as you alluded to, I picked the Bronx, as my place to call home, and it gives me street cred as an Australian to come from the Bronx. But there is a really nice pocket there that we absolutely love called Frog's Neck, and it's right on the water. It's a little boating community. It really does actually remind me of Sydney, and it helped me not feel so homesick all the time. I think when I moved to Frog's Neck, I'm like, it feels a lot like Sydney now. And parts of New York really do feel like Sydney, and I love Sydney. I never meant to leave Sydney. It's a phenomenal city. I accidentally left though, and I found my family here, and put down roots. But what makes me happy is a bit of time in nature, sipping coffee. I love coffee, and reading books. I mean, I'm reading all the time, so it's not the thing that relaxes me. The thing that actually makes me most happy is a little bit of downtime with my cup of coffee, and a little bit of me time, listening to the water noises and nature noises, and hanging out with my kids and husband.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Karolina, any kind of new hobbies you picked up during the pandemic, or you've been pretty busy with your kids, I would imagine?
No, it actually has been a really good time to pick up a new hobby. And one thing I've always wanted to do is learn the piano. And I just don't know that I'm smart enough to learn the piano. I mean, my child, my little girl, Sophia, is quite theatrical, and she's singing all the time, and she's got a great voice. So she's got a singing teacher, but I said, you can't just do singing. You need to also learn music and have an accompaniment. So bingo, time to have a piano in the house. And we bought an electric piano. They're not that expensive, and they don't even take up that much room. And so I got her into piano lessons, but my husband knows what's behind it is, I'm living vicariously. I am the one who wants to learn the piano, and I am her teacher. So they all actually moved to remote very easily. Her lessons with singing and piano. She actually is learning now the piano remotely. Her teacher is watching the keyboard, and and I need to help her with her homework and practicing. So I need to learn it, and I need to pay attention. So I've been learning the piano, and I've been, my goal is not to be a concert pianist, but 10 tunes. I just want 10 Christmas tunes, and I want the Christmas music, and I want to be able to belt out some music, and that can't be so hard. It's kind of like when I first, when I was single in New York, and I thought, well, if I'm ever going to have, a boyfriend or a husband, I need to learn to cook 10 great things.
I like it. Yeah.
I can commit to cooking 10 great things. And they're my specialties. This is the same with the piano. So long as I can learn to, play 10 great tunes and songs, I'm good. And then my girl can become, my daughter can become the Broadway star.
That's very cool. So besides the pond, the previous owner also left behind a piano in the living room. He wanted to charge for it, and I said, "You can take it. I have no idea how to play it, but it was too expensive to move, so he just left it here." But I can't play it at all, but I do have 2 recent kittens, and so occasionally when we're doing the podcast, the kittens will start jumping on it, and so it's kind of, first time it happened, I was really freaked out, but turned out it's just the kittens playing the piano.
What a ghost. Not a ghost hitting those things.
Exactly.
That's awesome. And I like your daughter already, Karolina, because I too have a flair for the theater and the dramatic, right? Theatrics, and I'm always singing around my kids. I don't think I'm a good singer. I think I take that back. My wife doesn't think I'm a good singer. I think I'm a great singer, but that's still up for debate.
So not only are you not naturally funny, you can't naturally sing either.
I think I can naturally sing, but my wife is like, I think you're off too. And I'm like, that's ridiculous. No, anyway.
I get told that a lot by my daughter. When I've tried to tell her how a song goes, because I've heard the song before, it's all brand new to her. She says, "Mum, don't sing." The number of times I hear, "Mum, don't sing." It's a lot.
That's awesome. And so we've come to the end of the podcast. One last closing thought that you want to leave us with, Karolina. You did it. So, love a closing thought from you.
Closing thought. Okay. Well, one of the things that I had to tell myself in my career over and over, it was just like this constant voice in my head, was, with great risk comes great reward. And that kind of got me into my courageous zone. How can I be more courageous in what I do as a marketer? And it's something that I challenge all marketers to do. It's not the time to just be tweaking campaigns and trying to get more out of campaigns. To become a 10Xer as a marketer, you really need to make some bold moves and take some risks. Do what really frightens you, or what might frighten you. Try that new format. Come out of the shadows a little bit if needed. And my CEO he makes big bets all the time. He makes bold moves. He acquired 2 companies that were in progress through the pandemic, and we're glad he did, because he gave us the capacity we needed, but he follows through. So he runs the company that way. I try to run our marketing that way. We are making big bets, we are taking risks, we are putting ourselves on the spot, we are executing, we are taking care of all the details, and so that's what I challenge other marketers to do. All of our webinars are on our website, orioninc.com. If you want to, we were able to do quite a lot of them in a short period of time. So there's a format there. It works, which is why we keep doing it. And take some risks. Learn a piece of technology, learn how to use it, and then learn how to execute. Take some baby steps. But when you take those bigger risks, I think it's where all of those rewards come, and that's where the magic happens.
I like it. Beautiful thought. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Karolina Kocalevski. She is the Vice President, Global Head of Marketing at Orion Innovation. As she mentioned, it's orion.com. Please go. OrionInc.com. Orion Inc. Go check out the wonderful webinars that she has been putting together, and her team. This has been another episode of The Marketing Stir. Karolina, you did it. You were great. We really appreciate you joining us. I'm Vincent Pietrafesa, the VP of B2B Products here at Stirista. That's Ajay Gupta, the CEO. This has been another episode of The Marketing Stir. Thank you, and have a great day.
Thanks for listening to the Marketing Stir podcast by Stirista. Please like, rate, and subscribe. If you're interested in being a guest on the podcast, email us at info@themarketingstir.com. And thanks for listening.